It's a decision that only took about 6 hours to finalize because a lot of people were trying to just make sure they got every I dotted and T crossed. However, there really wasn't much doubt about it. Still, for those this shooting impacted the most, it's a big day, even if they weren't allowed to show it. Day number 14 of this trial was different, even if it was just a feeling.
There was very subtle tension.
New York Times writer Manny Fernandez was one of just 45 people in the courtroom, a dozen of which were victims' family members. The judge gave them all the same order before the verdict. Whatever you're feeling, keep it hidden.
Everybody held their emotions in check, including the family members. Major Hasan didn't have any visible reaction. He sat motionless in his wheelchair.
The verdict was read quickly and offered no surprises. Guilty, all 45 counts. Bridget Woosley was the one sketching the reaction. Before the jury spoke, she says Hasan looked towards them, but that was it.
And he looked over, and then he looked back, and the rest of the time he just stared straight ahead. Didn't show any reaction at all.
And like that, the moment was over. The families that waited so long had to wait again to get out of the courtroom where their feelings and their relief could be revealed.
But they were holding back tears and keeping their composure in the moments as they exited the courtroom.
And we're told that once outside, those families actually did show some emotion, shared some hugs, shed some tears, and were a little bit more animated. But starting on Monday is the sentencing phase, and that's where the more important question has to be answered: life or death for Hasan. We'll talk more at 6 o'clock about what that phase will entail. For now, we're live at Fort Hood. Chris Sadeghi, KXAN News.
Chris, thanks. And with Hasan found guilty, some people want the victims to get the benefits normally given to soldiers wounded or killed in combat. The government classified the shooting as workplace violence. Texas Senator John Cornyn wants to change that. After the verdict, he said, quote, "We must turn our attention to ensuring that the victims of this horrible tragedy and their families receive the full honors and benefits bestowed upon soldiers who are wounded and killed in overseas combat zones." Governor Perry's also weighing in on the verdict, and we'll have a look at his reaction new at 6. The Texas Land Commissioner announced plans to change state rules to give combat benefits to the families of the Fort Hood's victims. Jerry Patterson called the victims casualties of war and vowed to change the rules to give their families full access to state veterans' land board rights. He said, quote, "We'll let the lawyers work out the details, but I intend to make sure we honor their sacrifice." Veterans' land board benefits include low-interest loans to buy homes or land, as well as access to long-term care facilities and state veteran cemeteries.
Since the Fort Hood shootings, Nidal Hasan has continued to collect his military pay. It adds up to around $300,000. We wondered if he had to give up that money. We checked the military code, and the answer seems to be maybe. A soldier who is court-martialed has to forfeit pay starting 14 days after being sentenced. However, the judge can order a convicted soldier to pay a fine to collect that money.